Hey, spit that out.
The Mandalorian and Grogu is set to hit theaters on May 22nd, 2026, and when it does, it's going to shake up the Star Wars universe in a big way. This movie will break a tradition that's been in place for over 2.5 decades, marking a major shift for the franchise and a fresh start. Out of all the upcoming Star Wars films, this one is probably the most anticipated. It's already making waves as the first show to jump from TV to the big screen. But The Mandalorian and Grogu isn't just about making history with its move to theaters. It's also going to dive into a part of the Star Wars timeline that's barely been explored on screen, won't be focused on the Jedi or Sith, and will likely reveal new insights about the New Republic era. And here's the kicker. This movie has already broken a surprising tradition even before it officially hits theaters. It does not have Star Wars in the title, which is a first since Star Wars Episode I: The Phantom Menace. Every main movie in the prequel and sequel trilogies, as well as other films outside of the Skywalker saga like Rogue One: A Star Wars Story and Solo: A Star Wars Story, kept Star Wars in their titles. Even though Rogue One and Solo had a slightly different title format to set them apart from the Skywalker movies, they still stuck to the naming convention. It looks like this tradition might continue with future projects, as Rey's upcoming Star Wars film is rumored to be called Star Wars: New Jedi Order. But for now, The Mandalorian and Grogu is the one film that's breaking this 25-year pattern. That said, it makes sense for this movie to be the one to do so, given its unique status as the first show to make the leap to the big screen. The Mandalorian has really established itself as its own thing within the Star Wars universe, more so than any other movie or upcoming project. With the Skywalker saga behind us, the story of Grogu and Din Djarin is expected to move away from the Skywalker lineage and won't focus on the Jedi or Sith. Sure, Grogu had a brief training period with Luke Skywalker and has a background at the Jedi Temple, but he chose a different path. It looks like The Mandalorian and Grogu will respect that choice and continue the story in a new direction. While Rogue One and Solo also stepped away from the Jedi-Sith focus, Rogue One doing it particularly well, they still had strong ties to the larger Star Wars lore. Rogue One centered on the Empire and the Death Star, and Solo was closely connected to the Skywalker saga through Han Solo. Plus, with its title, New Jedi Order seems set to keep exploring Jedi stories beyond the Skywalker family. The Mandalorian and Grogu, on the other hand, has carved out its own identity, spotlighting the Mandalorians, Din Djarin's adventures as a bounty hunter, and his unique bond with Grogu as an adoptive father figure. Because of this, the movie stands apart from other Star Wars films, past and future. So, it makes sense for The Mandalorian and Grogu to break from the 25-year tradition and drop Star Wars from its title. I love that The Mandalorian and Grogu is taking its own path and becoming something unique, but I hope it still feels connected to the larger Star Wars universe. It would be amazing to see some cameos that tie it back to the broader story. One character I'd love to see is Ben Solo, specifically a younger version of him. Ben Solo was alive during the Mandalorian era, and while the exact timeline for the movie is still up in the air, it's likely set sometime after Ahsoka. The Ahsoka finale seemed to set up potential heroes and villains, so including Ben Solo could make sense. It would be such an exciting way to bring him back to the Star Wars universe, especially since there's a gap before Rey's movie, which is set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. Adam Driver has said multiple times that he's done with Star Wars, and Ben Solo's story ended with his death, so it's unlikely he'd return in that movie. If Luke Skywalker's Jedi Temple is involved in The Mandalorian and Grogu, Ben Solo would naturally be part of that story. It would be great to see him make an appearance and remind everyone that the Star Wars universe is still connected, even as new stories carve out their own space. The ending of Star Wars: The Bad Batch was truly exciting, not just because it gave the clones an unexpected happy ending, but also because it hinted that Omega's story isn't over. The finale revealed that she went on to become a pilot for the Rebellion, which could mean big things for her future in the Star Wars universe. While it's not a sure thing that she'll appear in a new project, it would be strange for the franchise to set that up and not follow through. That makes The Mandalorian and Grogu a perfect opportunity for Omega to make her live-action debut. Fans have grown to love her character, and seeing her back on screen would be a treat. With her being a pilot and aligned with the rebellion, it makes sense that she'd want to be part of the New Republic. If this happens, it would be an excellent way for Star Wars to keep the story of the clones alive and well in the franchise. Another is Luke Skywalker. There's been a lot of talk about whether Luke will show up in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and it would be strange if he didn't. Given that Luke was a Jedi Master during this period and would likely step in for any major threat to the galaxy, his involvement feels almost necessary. With the movie expected to feature Din Djarin, Grogu, and the New Republic facing off against Grand Admiral Thrawn, having Luke in the mix would make sense. Of course, if Luke does appear, it would probably mean recasting the character. While Mark Hamill has returned as Luke in shows like The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett, a full movie would probably need a new approach to bring the character to life on screen. If Star Wars were to recast Luke, it would open up exciting possibilities for his role in future projects. With how big a part Luke played in the galaxy's fight against the Empire and beyond, not having him in the movie would be tough to explain, making this cameo seem very likely. Moving on, Ahsoka Tano's story could naturally tie into The Mandalorian and Grogu, even if it hasn't been directly confirmed. It would be surprising if the movie didn't pick up where Ahsoka left off. In Ahsoka Season 1, she and Sabine Wren ended up stuck on Peridea after switching places with Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn, who were on their way back to the main Star Wars galaxy. While Ahsoka seemed to accept her new situation, the fact that Ezra and Thrawn found a way off the planet suggests Ahsoka and Sabine could eventually make their way home. If Thrawn poses a serious threat to the galaxy, Ahsoka, being one of the few Jedi left, would almost certainly want to be a part of the fight. With Ahsoka Season 2 in the works, it makes sense for her to make an appearance in The Mandalorian and Grogu. A cameo from Ahsoka would feel right at home. If Ahsoka Tano appears in The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's likely Sabine Wren will be right there with her. Given how closely they've been linked, it would make sense for Sabine to join Ahsoka on any mission, especially if they're still trying to get off Peridea. If the movie is set before Ahsoka Season 2, it could show them working to find their way back, which would tie into the story and add depth if Thrawn is the main villain. Sabine's commitment to Ezra makes her presence even more fitting, as she's been focused on finding him since the start. It's worth noting that Sabine and Ahsoka's journey to Peridea was originally to locate Ezra and bring him back to the galaxy. While they succeeded in finding him, it also led to Ezra and Sabine being separated once again. Seeing Ahsoka and Sabine team up in The Mandalorian and Grogu would be a great way to let fans finally witness that reunion and show them facing a major threat side by side. Well, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on this and other exciting upcoming movies. We'll see you next time.